Hi, I'm Dr. Lindsey Thiessen. I'm the Extension Plant Pathologist at NC State University. I worked on a hemp disease management project that was focused on limiting foliar diseases in industrial hemp for North Carolina farmers. This project was funded through NCDA and was a collaboration between NC State University and NC Biotech. Right now we're standing in a field evaluating fungicides in hemp to look at management techniques that are going to be beneficial to reduce foliar diseases in hemp. Hemp has a bunch of different foliar diseases that can limit our potential yields and the quality of our harvested crop. Several of those include Cercospora leaf blight, Septoria leaf spot, and unique to North Carolina, Exorohyllum leaf spot. So over here we have some Cercospora leaf spot, and that you can tell based on the pattern on the leaf again, where you see a darkened margin. It's almost purple in color, and the centers are gray. And then on the outside of that, there's a little bit of a halo. That's where the fungus is actively growing and pulling nutrition from the leaf. So it's pretty characteristic. A lot of other crops call it frog eye leaf spot because it looks a bit like a frog's eye on the leaf. So there's webbing that's on this upper portion of the tissue, and that's actually the hyphae from the fungus. So it puts out all those webbing structures to consume tissues, and it's caused by Rhizoctonia solani. We differentiate between fungal and bacterial injuries by looking at the distribution on the leaf. You can tell that it's limited to the leaf veins, so where there's actually an angular distribution of necrosis. That's typically because bacteria can't get across those leaf veins until it becomes something more systemic and you see it travel along the leaf veins and has a lightning appearance. So this is mostly bacterial damage. I couldn't tell you which bacteria at this point without getting it back to the lab and getting some plates of what's causing it. Another problem that's common in hemp in North Carolina has been Fusarium foliar and flower blight that can impact not just the leaf tissues but also the flower tissues for those that are growing for CBD. So our project with the NCDA and NC Biotech was focused on developing management techniques that would reduce those impacts from disease. To do that, we looked at a bunch of different fungicides. We evaluated organic pesticides, we looked at non-labeled compounds, we also looked at non-labeled conventional pesticides, with the goal that those may eventually make it into something like the IR4 program for low use crops. So when we did all these evaluations, we started early in the growing season with our fungicide applications and went on into the end of the season. So we looked at the amount of disease throughout the season, and then we collected yields and looked at the quality affecting the flowers that we harvested. At the end of all of this, we also evaluated the impacts on CBD and THC of those flowers, and we looked for chemical residues that may still be present on the plants. Our best treatment last year was actually a sulfur treatment, and we think that that was due to drought conditions that were prevalent in the 2019 growing season. Our plants weren't able to acquire nutrients, and that made them more susceptible to our most predominant disease last year that was caused by Lasiodiplobia theobrome, and that just causes a tip dieback of plants. It also can affect the foliage and the flowers of hemp, so we saw a lot of that in our fields. When we looked at the CBD and THC content, we actually found that with more disease, we saw a decrease in CBD and THC content. Now that may vary based on the disease that's in the field, but we're curious to see if things like stresses actually impact whether these plants may go hot and have high THC content, or if it's going to affect the quality of CBD characteristics. The main takeaway from this project was that we can use different management techniques, not only cultural practices, but we also can incorporate fungicides into our management strategy that help limit disease damages and losses. From our project, we found that maintaining a healthy plant is the first step to getting a healthy plant at the end of the growing season where we have adequate nutrition And if we are dealing with things like drought stress, we want to make sure that we're staying on top of that to help limit damages from diseases. So in our future research projects, we're going to continue to evaluate these different fungicide chemistries. We want to make sure that we're staying legal and following the label. So for our research trial that's behind us this year in the 2020 growing season, we're evaluating EPA-registered fungicides that are largely biological in nature. We're also continuing to work with IR4 to evaluate new conventional chemistries that may be valuable to us in growing hemp in the future. For more information about hemp diseases and other hemp information as we start to get that out to the growers, check out the NC State Hemp Portal and look to the NCDA website for more information on how to grow hemp in North Carolina.